there, and welcome to Rewatching VeggieTales. I'm not Bob the Tomato or Larry the Cucumber, and this video probably won't answer any of your questions. Unless your question is what school you can go to if you want to major in Play-Doh, which will be answered farther in. Today I'll be talking about Are You My Neighbor, originally released March 28, 1995. Before rewatching the episode, I had the preconception that this is when the videos really started to get good. I remember the animation being a little more fluid, and I could remember both of the story segments with a lot of clarity, remembering them both to be charming with a lot of humor. Of course, it has what's probably the most well-known silly song of all time, and I was looking forward to catching references that would tie into a much, much, much later episode. If you know, you know. Just call me Mariah the Foreshadower. I was also pretty sure that this was the episode where we finally said goodbye to Larry's low dopey voice and hello to the silly tenor we've all come to know and love, though he does still hold on to the lisp for another 10 episodes or so. We open on the first genuinely funny countertop of the series. After the usual intro, there's a pause for a beat, and Bob delivers, "I bet you're wondering why Larry has a shoe on his head," which has way too much raw power for a single line. The banter and the pacing of the rest of the countertop really restored my faith that these first few episodes were actually, funny. Bob then narrates a Dr. Seussian story about the towns of Flibberoloo and Gibberty Lot. The story is technically a retelling of the biblical Good Samaritan story, but it takes enough liberties that I'd feel more comfortable saying that it's based on the Bible story rather than an actual biblical retelling. The people of Flibberoloo all wear shoes on their head, and the people of Gibberty Lot all put a pot up there. Unless you're Lenny Carrot, in which case yours is more of a kettle. The townsfolk throw their headgear of choice at the other town in rivalry. One citizen of Flibberoloo, played by Larry, decides to take his pet wind-up lobster for a walk between the two cities, when he's stopped by 3 bandits. So, the bandits raise a lot of questions. There's only 2 towns on the hill, yet they don't wear anything on their heads. Where did these 3 come from? Are they homeless? Are they expelled members of either community? Is that what led them to their life of crime? Anyway, the bandits knock Larry's shoe off, steal his milk money, and stick him upside down in a hole. But luckily for Larry, the mayor of Flibberoloo walks by. And look, I know I'm not the first person to point out the hilarious hypocrisy of the Busy song, but my goodness, the humor in the situation it still holds up. Once the mayor, played by Archibald, has finished his song about being too busy to help Larry, a doctor from Flibberoloo shows up, also too busy to help Larry out of a hole, but not too busy to talk about schedules, discuss daily planners, exchange flirty banter, and perform a song and dance number with the mayor. The 2 then basically leave Larry for dead. But, gasp! A boy from Gibberty Lot, played by Junior Asparagus, sees Larry in the hole, and even though he does spend a moment debating whether or not he should help him, he ultimately decides that helping people is good, actually, and brings Larry to see the same doctor who left him for dead. When the doctor and the mayor see that Larry was helped by someone from Gibberty Lot, they are moved to tears. And moved to another song. The low notes Archibald hits in Love Your Neighbor are always both impressive and hilarious to me, and anytime Junior sings off-key, my heart grows 3 sizes. So anyway, now that exactly one child has ended xenophobia on this hill, the 2 towns have ended bigotry and throw flowers and candy at each other instead of headgear. From Flibberoloo, we move to what is honestly the most iconic silly song of all time. And by iconic, I don't necessarily mean it's the best, the funniest, or the catchiest. I just mean that everyone and their dog knows this one. People who could not name a VeggieTales character, despite how many are mentioned by name in this very short, know the song. And for good reason. It did give us the phrase shocked and slightly embarrassed that I still work into my conversations to this day. Due to its ubiquity, I don't have much to add, other than we really need to give props to how ham the piano's going, and that the cutout props on the countertop stage really amp up the hilarity. The episode's final segment is The Gourds Must Be Crazy. Junior is making a list of everyone he wants to invite to his birthday party. He doesn't include Fernando, despite his dad pushing him to include him. Junior doesn't want to invite Fernando, not because of something in the air that night or the stars that were bright, but because Junior claims he talks funny. Dad, of course, shuts down the racism and reminds Junior that Fernando talks differently because his family is from another country. Dad leaves Junior to sleep on the idea, and this time Bob and Larry fly a spaceship in through Junior's open window, which is like Suspicious. But it makes a lot more sense than the last time they appeared in his bedroom, so I'll let it slide. This time, Bob and Larry need help with their spaceship, the USS Apple Pies. The ship is out of power and can't move out of the way of an incoming popcorn ball meteor. You would think that the crew of the Apple Pies might remember what it's like to need power in 20-ish years after such a devastating event, and yet... Anyway, Junior's who they went to for help because he minored in aerospace technology at the Happy Tots preschool. His major was Play-Doh. Bob and Larry bring Junior back to the Apple Pies, where they are greeted by Scooter, a Scottish carrot, who briefs them on the situation, telling Junior there is 364 people on the ship and 2 escape pods. We then meet Jimmy and Jerry Gord, the new guys. All they do is sing and eat and sing, which is like, big mood, Jimmy and Jerry. I feel seen. I do think it's worth noting that Jerry's voice sounds a lot like Mike trying to imitate Phil playing Jimmy, specifically because both Larry and Jerry, who are played by Mike Naworcki, have their voices get higher as the series progresses. I don't know, I just thought it was worth noting. When Junior is talking to the Gords, Jimmy mentions that sometimes he's so hungry he could eat a whole planet. Since the meteor is made out of popcorn, Junior hatches the plan. He's going to send Jimmy and Jerry out on the 2 escape pods to eat the meteor. And they do it! The Gords are brought back inside, and they're celebrated for the special difference that saved the day. Jerry then restores power, having snacked on a sun table, revealing a power cord that apparently powers the whole ship, and it just wasn't plugged in. The gang then sings I Can Be Your Friend, which absolutely slaps. Bob and Larry bring Junior back home, and Junior tells his dad that he's changed his mind, and he does want to invite Fernando to his party. I do want to talk about the closing countertop, because much like the opening, this is the first time it's actually funny. We've seen Bob get annoyed about the What We Have Learned song interrupting him, but this is the first time we see him get violent. His off-screen smashing of what we have to assume is the device playing the song makes it starting back up again like nothing happened even funnier. I'm honestly really impressed with the episode. The rhyme scheme of Flibberoo Lou has such a lovely pace to it, and the short itself is humorous, heartwarming, and teaches the lesson well. The Gords Must Be Crazy is a little more obvious with its lesson and moral, but it's still such a fun ride, introduces some beloved characters, and absolutely killed me with Jerry's just snacking on a sun table line. Junior Asparagus really shines in this episode. Instead of being a child who needs to be taught a lesson as audience proxy, he gets to be a fully fleshed out character with agency, and his charm just completely shines through. While the animation in this episode doesn't quite hold up to today's standards, it's a lot more fluid than the episode prior, and the writing in this one is the best it's been so far. If you have young kids you'd like to introduce to a series that you loved growing up, this might be the best early episode to start them with. And if you're an adult looking to revisit the series, this one holds up. It's funny, it's charming, and it's just really cute. And that's all the time we have for today, kids. Remember, always invite the weird kid to your birthday party, just in case there's a popcorn meteor.